Good morning to you. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. Byron York joins me. Byron, of course, is with the Washington Examiner, is a Fox News contributor as well. And he and I did a quick hit with Larry Kudlow last week. That was kind of funny to me, Byron, because Larry always runs long. If you're the last segment on Larry Kudlow's show, be prepared to be brief. Are you well attuned to that?
I am totally well attuned.
It's like a Larry trademark.
Okay. Yeah. Much better to be very early in the show.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with a basic question, proposition. I write about this at Fox News today. 8 years ago, the first time he was president-elect, exactly 8 years ago, Donald Trump's approval rating was 40%. Today, it's 55%. Now, I offer three reasons for that jump, the Trump jump. What's your best guess why, Byron York?
Well, there are a few reasons. First of all, at the press conference yesterday, the best line of the whole thing, and it was long, he says, yeah, the biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. I mean, he's noticed a real difference. And I think the difference is he was president, he left, he was succeeded by a really, really bad president, and a lot of people are glad to see him back.
Yeah, that's my first argument. He's not Joe Biden. And in fact, yesterday, we haven't seen a press conference from a president like that since Trump was president, right? Joe Biden couldn't do that.
No, not possible.
And Kamala Harris couldn't do that.
No, and she didn't do that. I mean, she could have done that during the campaign sometime. You know, just at some point in a campaign or a political exercise, when the politician wants to tell the press that he or she can handle anything, they'll hold a press conference and they'll answer everything. I mean, I remember this. Almost all of them have done a press conference where they get to the end and like people are not asking questions anymore. They'll say, "Anybody got anything else?" You know, and then the press relaxes a little bit. I think they feel like this person isn't trying to hide from them, and they'll answer any questions or entertain any questions. And you know, Trump was like that yesterday. And
yeah, Trump is so comfortable. I hope he does this like weekly. I think it's a wonderful way to communicate with the American people. My second argument was that 8 years ago, the media was in shock, which quickly turned into anger, and they referred their pain. And it was genuine pain. They were sorrowful that Hillary didn't win. They referred that on to the public, and the public was afraid of Trump 8 years ago. And they're not now. They know him. What do you make of that argument?
Well, yeah, he's been president for years. And, I mean, that was a huge factor in the campaign because we talked about it several times.
You're breaking up on us, Byron. You're walking around your house. I can see you right now. You're pacing.
I'm sitting on a couch. I'm not moving right now.
Well, we're not.
Would you like me to?
Okay. All right. My
Hold
third
on.
argument was.
Let me move around a little bit.
He is an optimist.
We talked about that during the campaign.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We talked about it during the campaign. Other than the campaign of 1892, it was totally unique. You had not had a candidate running for president who had served as president before but was out of office. And that created the fact that Biden was so bad created enormous Trump nostalgia among some voters. And that, by the way, the fact that Trump won, not just the Electoral College, but the popular vote too, has made the press look and say, well, I guess he's the guy.
And he is acting that way. Brings me to point number three. Hamilton in Federalist 78 said the most important thing for a president is energy in the executive. The late Terry Eastland used that as a book title, and I always talk to people about that. I think Trump kind of embodies energy in the executive. And I asked a lefty at lunch yesterday, nice guy, friend of mine, but he's a liberal. I said, hey, do you think Trump is going to age the way Biden did? And he said, absolutely not. He's not that kind of guy. He is different. There are a few people out there whose energy grows with the years. I think he's right. Do you, Byron York?
Well, at some point he slows down. But the question is, will he be an energetic executive between the ages of 78 and 82? Clearly, if you look at Joe Biden's news conferences right after he becomes president, so in the first weeks of his presidency in 2021, he doesn't have near the energy or the with itness that that Trump had yesterday. So Trump is starting from a much, much better place. Everybody ages, and I think we're all really hoping that Trump does really well.
Now, what did you think of the questions yesterday?
I thought they were mostly fine. I mean, they touched. The point is not to ask this beautifully crafted question. The point is to get the official to talk about some of the things, most of the big things in the news at this point. So, there was and first of all, Trump, started it with a long speech, so he covered a lot of things himself. But I thought they were fine.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I thought. The resting face of legacy media is to try and gig Trump. They really want to gig him. So they went there on vaccines. Let's play that. Cut number 15. Kind of an idiotic question, but let's play it. Cut 15.
Yeah. Two quick questions. First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides. And something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism today versus 20, 25 years ago. It's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing. You're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that.
I know where he's going with it. So, Byron, I asked him about autism and vaccines 8 years ago. He has never changed his point of view on this. Nothing's new, which is, gosh, we got a lot of autism now, and we didn't have it 25 years ago. What's going on? That's a good way to put it, but I think the question is not asked in good faith. There's no way it was asked in good faith, right?
Well, it doesn't matter whether the question was asked in good faith. The question was a reasonable question to ask, given what Democrats are saying. Now, you have to assume that the reporter obviously is a Democrat and agrees with what the Democrats are saying, but that's fine. You had to get this question out so that Trump could answer it, and he steered it away from vaccines and toward pesticides, which was interesting.
Yes.
He's telling you something right there of where he wants to go with Kennedy, and then he had to come out. I watched an interview. I think it was on CNN, maybe it was MSNBC, with the Democratic senator after this press conference, and they were going on and on about how Trump is going to withdraw the polio vaccine. There will be thousands and thousands of American children who die or are crippled in coming. I mean, they're talking about this all the time, and you have to.
Byron, they're crazy, and this is why legacy media is going to fall apart. I want to conclude this way: when we talk about Trump, we've got a guy who's been there before. He's doing it again. Do you expect him to be more popular in a year or less popular? He was at 40% 8 years ago. He's at 55% today. It's the highest he's ever been. Do you expect that to keep going up or to come down?
I do. Well, it might go up a little bit. I do not expect it to go up very much because people are going to find out. I mean, some of the things they didn't like about Trump, they're still not going to like about Trump because he doesn't change. What might change is that people might begin to think, he's actually doing a good job, and things are better now than they were before. They were better when he was president the first time. They got really bad after he left, and now they're getting better again. I think people might be more willing to make that calculation now than they were the first time.
I got to sneak in two more questions for you, Byron. Can you stand by and talk to me during the break?
Sure.
That's because my two questions are the ABC News settlement and Judge Merchan. Because while a whole bunch of people are going to just follow the bouncing ball and see what he does, we got two people legacy media and the New York judiciary that don't want to let anything go. So don't go anywhere. Byron York is going to stick with me during the break. I'm going to ask him those two questions about. I was on with Leland Bittert last night, and so there's no doubt in anyone's mind. There is no precedent. A settlement is never a precedent. And if anyone thinks that settlement was bad, let them go on air and repeat what it was that George Stephanopoulos said 10 times and see if you don't get sued too, because it's a lie. I'll be right back. So I'm back with Byron York, and I'll play this immediately after Byron. The ABC News settlement. Leland Bittert asked me on News Nation last night, what do you think about this? I said, it's not a precedent. It's not an alarming thing. And he played a clip of Brian Stelter talking to Jim Acosta, and I almost laughed because nobody was watching that clip to begin with, given their ratings. But number two, they wouldn't repeat what Stephanopoulos said because they don't want to get sued either. Do you think there is any question of alarm out there? Because the hand-wringing has been something to behold.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, Trump has filed a lot of lawsuits over the years, some of them against media organizations, and they've always been thrown out. So I thought they all expected this to happen with the ABC suit. And I think the explosion of anger, first shock and then anger, inside the press came from this feeling that, sure, we can make mistakes sometime, but basically we get to say whatever we want about Donald Trump, and he has no legal recourse, none. We're protected. And all this showed was that, yeah, there's some things you can say that you might have to pay a legal price for. And, I went back and read the transcript of this Stephanopoulos interview where he said 10 times that Trump had been found liable for rape. And the jury specifically ruled that he was not liable for rape. They had the E. Jean Carroll had failed to prove, even by the low standard in effect for that trial, that he was liable for rape. So it was just something so obviously false and repeated over and over and over again. And also, by the way, when there was a storm afterwards, ABC could have corrected. I mean, this happened on March the 10th of this year. They had, I believe the lawsuit was filed 9 days later. They could have, in those 9 days, or even after the lawsuit was published, was filed, come out and actually corrected and apologized. And I don't think this would have happened.
Now, Byron, I want to end this way. You and I do a lot of media. Sometimes we do it together. I have never once been afraid of being sued for defamation. And I've been doing this for 35 years. I've never been sued for defamation. I say harsh things about people. It's not that hard to avoid the New York Times v. Sullivan standard of recklessness and disregard for the truth. Have you ever worried about being sued for defamation?
No, I will tell you that when I was a television producer in Washington, did some investigative stories, and did have people occasionally threaten us. But that was a complete nothing. Nothing ever happened. Nobody ever filed nothing. But in terms of as a commentator on the news, no, never.
No, it's so silly what we see going on, the excessive self-regard and the idea that they're somehow threatened. It's just alarmism. Byron York, always a pleasure to talk to you.